Okay, let me just have a couple of minutes to check that this is streaming okay. Just going to check that people can access this fine. Hello. If anyone can see me, please do comment to let me know that it's working okay. And I'm very sorry for the delay. I think I was having some issues broadcasting, so it wasn't actually showing. Okay. Yay, okay. Thank you for commenting. I think you can see me fine, which is great. So it's great to have a couple of people on here at the moment. My name is Katie Smith. For those of you who weren't at the last session that I did last month, I am from Liverpool in England. I did my Tefl qualification with Tefl Heaven in Costa Rica. I then moved down to Peru to do some teaching for 6 months in a language institute there. And I'm currently in Brazil doing a bit of traveling. But as you might be able to tell, I love talking about my Tefl experience and being able to share it and encourage people to go and do it. So any questions that anyone has about anything, you can kind of comment as we go. You can also contact me afterwards. You can send us emails and a member of the team can get back to you. But yeah, please do ask anything and everything. No question is a stupid question. I know before I kind of committed to it, I had lots of different questions about different things. So don't be shy. Please do comment. I'll keep a kind of eye on this as we go to see if there's anything kind of coming up so I don't miss anything. Okay. Perfect. Right. Okay, so in terms of an overview of what I'll cover this morning or afternoon, evening, depending on where you are in the world. First off, I'll talk a little bit about the teaching schedule and different kind of teaching schedules that you might have. Then talk about me time, time to reset, the importance of no, and then I will kind of wrap it up. So this morning it will be 30 minutes. So yeah, please do comment. If you're watching it on replay, hello. You can always kind of comment questions and anything in the group after the time as well. Okay, so first off, in terms of teaching schedules then. So in terms of what it looks like on a day-to-day, different types of places you'll be working can be schools and language institutes. So in a school, it will stereotypically be kind of how it was, I reckon, when the majority of you were in school, 9 till 3, a kind of chunk in the day, and you'll have time off, you'll have your weekends and that kind of thing to, kind of get ready for the next week. I personally taught in a language institute, which was a little bit different. So I was teaching adults, so I would teach in the morning, have the day off whilst they all went to work, and then I would teach again in the evening. So those are the kind of two different schedules and what it can look like day to day. Also had Saturday and Sundays off to go and do kind of different things. So yeah, that kind of day to day and what the schedule will look like is dependent on where you get placed. You can talk about this kind of in your placement and state preferences of where you think you'd be better off. But yeah, I didn't think I would be teaching in a language institute, but I definitely got used to the schedule and kind of you do begin to get used to that rhythm and then kind of find ways to get used to a kind of split shift schedule. In terms of lesson planning, then This is something that during your certification, your training, you'll probably find that you're spending a really, really long amount of time at lesson planning. I know I as well could get really meticulous about it and kind of spend way too long planning, and as you'll learn as you kind of start teaching is things might go in a different direction, move in a different way. It's like I'm not even following my lesson plan to a T, and it was eating a lot of time into my day. One thing with this that you will certainly find is that you'll spend a lot of time lesson planning in the first instance. Once you get more confident with the materials, more confident at kind of teaching different things, and you've got your pool of resources, you'll get much quicker and it will start to eat less time into your day. So, yeah, one thing I would say is if you're finding it quite time consuming and frustrating in the first instance, be patient with it, you'll get quicker. This feeds quite nicely into the next point about teaching community. So the teaching community is, it's amazing. I relied on my fellow teachers a lot. It's obviously great that you're finding like-minded people, but I was really nervous at the beginning to kind of ask for help, or, I don't know how to teach this. But that's what the community is there for. There are people who have been teaching for longer than you. They'll have different resources. You'll find that they have things that will make your life easier. You'll begin to get kind of quicker at it. So your time will be more spread between kind of focusing on the teaching and kind of having your free time. So it's really important to definitely rely on that community, be involved in it, and make sure that you're kind of getting things out of it that can certainly help when you're kind of starting off teaching. Because the last kind of point on teaching schedule is your time management. So I know a lot of times when you're thinking about teaching, you're just focused. All of my questions were focused on what are the lessons like, how long are the lessons, and that kind of thing. And one thing I didn't really think about was managing your own time, making sure that you're having time to get to know that new country, to integrate into it, whilst also obviously focusing on the teaching. So you'll have your free time, you'll have kind of the weekends. So it's really important to tap into your community, make friends. We're obviously all in different countries, away from home. You need that support network. So yeah, as you can see on these photos, there's kind of us on a boat one weekend, go for a coffee, have a chat, have a conversation. Because when you're not managing your time well, it's really easy to become quite overwhelmed, and kind of find that you're not getting time to kind of refocus, and you're spending way too much time either lesson planning or marking or thinking through lesson plans, which is amazing, but it's just really important to manage your time, and make sure you're not being overwhelmed. I know when I began teaching, I was getting really run down because I was spending hours and hours lesson planning and printing different things off and looking at different things. So I myself really had to kind of focus on that time management, make sure that I was doing things that I enjoy. So on this slide, you can just see some photos of me and my fellow teachers. I don't know why Claire is always the selfie taker, but as you can see her there, always at the front taking the selfie. But yeah, in kind of the different countries that you can teach in, there's so many different things to do. We kind of would go to football games. There's us at our Christmas party. We did a lot of hikes. We went and found the waterfalls. In the centre is us hiking to Machu Picchu. So it's really important to plan your time. Make sure that you're planning really exciting things for the weekend. You're using your time to see the country, get out and about and kind of soak that up, because that is a big reason why you're there. You're there to see different things and be in a different environment. You're also very lucky you are in a community of like-minded people. So everyone's up to do different things and kind of go out and be in nature. Sometimes you're in the classroom too much. So it's just worthwhile kind of planning your time and making sure that you are seeing different things, so that the kind of weeks and months don't pass and you're like, oh, I haven't even seen Peru, or I haven't seen Cusco, which is where I was teaching. And teaching itself, which I didn't think about enough before I started, is incredibly tiring. Obviously, it's really energetic. You're teaching multiple lessons a day. You're playing games. You're having to be at the front of the classroom with the enthusiasm and everything. So bear in mind that it is a tiring job. So do things that make sure that you can kind of re-energize and go into that classroom with the energy the next week as well. Okay, let me just move on. Okay, so you time. So me time, but you time. Okay, so work versus your free time. I've kind of touched on this already, but it's really important. I know with any, especially when you're starting out in a new job, it can become really easy to be all consumed by it. I certainly was when I began teaching, but it's really important to use your free time to your advantage. Make sure you're doing things that excite you, that you find enjoyable. You will find that you'll become a better teacher through that. When you're having different experiences and kind of trying different foods and seeing different views, you will go into the classroom with a better energy and more positive mindset. No one wants to work 24/7, and you shouldn't be working 24/7. Okay, so it's really important to use your free time and make sure you're using it to your advantage. Prioritizing self-care. So I know sometimes people think self-care is like just kind of doing things like yoga and Pilates, which is obviously, but there are loads of different ways we can look after ourselves, and it's obviously very dependent person to person. Some people like going for a run. Some people like journaling, like listening to podcasts, going for a drink with friends after work. There's lots of different ways you can self-care, but it's really important to be mindful of it and make sure that you're actively fitting it into your working week and you're actively looking after yourself. As I mentioned earlier, you are abroad, you're in a different country, so you've got a different support network. So it's really important that you are looking after yourself as much as you can, and you're feeling, it'll help you be in a positive mindset for your teaching and everything. So yeah, I would say find a couple of activities that you enjoy doing that can definitely kind of look after yourself. At home, I used to love going for runs. I couldn't go for runs whilst I was in Cusco because the altitude was so hard. I was literally like, I cannot run. So I just had to find different activities and different things I enjoyed doing. Went for a lot of walks, a lot of hikes, just to make sure that I was looking after myself as well. Your energy, something that is really interesting that I hadn't even thought about, was your energy being mirrored in the classroom. So I remember one time I went back to work on Monday morning. We'd all had a really long weekend. We'd just tried to fit in too many things, too much sightseeing and everything. And I went into the classroom and my energy was just so low. I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't think I can do this. And that is mirrored by the students. They'll pick up from your energy and your vibe. And I remember trying to get through this game. I was like, this game's going to be really cool. Okay. And I was trying to get them involved. But yeah, my energy was basically just really low. They were then giving me really low energy. And I was like, what have I done? So it's just worthwhile kind of thinking of that. Obviously, every day you're not going to be on. We're human. You're not going to be absolutely full of energy every single day, but it's just worthwhile thinking about things that can look after yourself to make sure that you are and you're ready to go when you get back into the classroom. Okay. Setting boundaries. Obviously, this is incredibly important, every single aspect of your life. But especially when you are moving to a different country, I was moving into a different profession. I had zero experience kind of teaching before. So it's just worthwhile kind of making sure that you're setting your boundaries in this job like you do in every other job. So introverts and extroverts, looking at time to reset. So obviously, dependent on kind of if you're introverted or if you're extroverted, you'll reset and re-energize in different ways. Some people might prefer having alone time, writing thoughts down in a journal just to kind of get everything out onto a page. Some people might prefer kind of being out in that environment with a group of people and going for a drink after work. So dependent on who you are. I definitely learned a lot about myself. I thought, oh, I'm like really extroverted. I need to be around people all the time. When I started teaching, I realized that I wasn't, and that I do need that alone time as well. And I really had to factor this into my day and make sure that I wasn't just kind of spending 24/7 around 24 hours a day, kind of around people. You have your group of teachers, you're then teaching with people. So if you need to kind of refresh on your own, make sure that you're kind of factoring time in for yourself as well. If you don't have kind of energy and you're feeling really burnt out and run down, it will directly impact your kind of experience abroad and the time that you have teaching. So just bear that in mind. Cultural integration. So when I arrived, I put loads of pressure on myself to be like, do it, soak in all the culture in every single day in all my free time. And that had a really negative impact on my teaching and the time that I was having in Peru. So obviously you are in a new country, you want to be trying different foods, meeting local people, trying to go to dancing classes and everything, which is really important. And it's a really big reason why we're all keen to go abroad and be in a different space. But it's super important not to put the pressure on yourself to every single hour of every single day be soaking it up. Okay, so sometimes I did just want to watch Netflix and I was like, no, this evening I'm going to do nothing. I'm just going to mindlessly watch a TV show that I enjoy watching. Watched a lot of The American Office. So yeah, it's worth kind of knowing that as well. And you do have lots of time. I know like most contracts are kind of 3 to 6 months. You have time. You have the time to kind of soak up that culture. So don't put so much pressure on yourself to every day be kind of doing really exciting, fun things. So yeah. Okay, so learning to say no. I found this really, really hard, especially growing up. And it's really easy to just be like, yeah, I'll do everything. And then you have way too many tasks. You become really overwhelmed, and your mind is kind of all over the place, and you just have too many things to do. So something that is really important to bear in mind is kind of working smarter, not harder. So like I said earlier, when I was lesson planning, I was starting everything from scratch. I was trying to come up with all these like weird, out of the box, wonderful games and everything, which is really important. It's important for your lessons to be unique and for you to be trying different things and seeing how they work. But as I said, tap into that teaching community, use different resources, pool it all together, and it will save you time, save you energy, and it will help build your confidence as a teacher. You'll find to kind of start to find the things that work in the classroom, the things that don't. So I would say don't be shy, kind of make sure you are leaning on other people. You don't always need to be starting resources from scratch. That's why there's so many things out there, especially online. You can find lots of different worksheets and everything. So sometimes it is important to just work smarter and not harder all of the time. Collaborate, don't deliberate. So yes, there were times when I would be quite overwhelmed with different kind of classes I had. there are different kind of levels. So you have basic and it goes up to intermediate and advanced. And I was finding the advanced classes really hard to make sure that I was still pushing the students and making sure that they were getting enough out of the lessons. So yes, collaborate. Ask your superiors for help. Ask your fellow teachers for help. Ask the students, like, hey guys, like, what do you enjoy? Do you enjoy these games? Do you want different kinds of games? Do you like the worksheets? Do you want to, like, do presentations? And they will speak to you. They'll let you know, and then your lessons will start going a lot easier. So it doesn't always have to be a guessing game. I think communication is really important. Communicating with your students, and kind of making sure that they're having fun and they're getting things out of it, but also just collaborating with different teachers and kind of asking different communities, even things like Facebook groups. You can learn a lot. And I definitely didn't do enough of this at the beginning of teaching. I was like, I can do this on my own. I'm qualified now. I'm going to figure it out. I saved a hell of a lot of time when I was asking for help and I was, hearing different experiences from different teachers. Setting boundaries. Okay, so as with any single job in the world, you will be given lots of different tasks and you might be asked to take on more responsibility. You need to listen to yourself and know that if it's the right kind of move for you or if it's not, and setting your boundaries when teaching English is exactly the same as setting boundaries in different aspects of your life. So, it's fine to say, I need help with this, or I don't understand this task. I know when I was teaching, I found English grammar really, really hard. As a native speaker, we're quite lucky that we don't have to learn the rules or we have zero understanding of it, really, or I certainly did. And I was trying to get through these advanced classes, teaching different aspects of tenses, and I was really struggling. And, I had to be in classes like, that's an amazing question. I'm going to find out and we'll cover this tomorrow in class. I had to go and ask different teachers for help on how to explain things, ask my boss about different grammar rules, because yes, as native speakers, we can obviously speak English fluently, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you understand the English language, and every single aspect of it. So just making sure that you are kind of asking for help when you need it and not assuming that you're going to understand and know absolutely everything. I'm now much better at English grammar, and you will get there through different classes and kind of taking the time out for it. But yes, it's really important to set your boundaries, especially in the beginning. Like, no, I can't do all these different tasks. I really need to focus on getting my lesson plans down and making sure that I'm kind of bringing the best kind of things to do in the lessons. In different schools and language institutes as well, you will have exam periods and quizzes to kind of obviously check where the students are at and where they need kind of more help with. And I remember when I started, I had so many things to mark and like a really short deadline. And I was just like, listen, guys, I need help. And everyone will help each other and make sure that you all get through it together. But I was really scared and embarrassed to like ask for help and set these boundaries of like, I physically can't do that in the time period. So it's really, really important to kind of bear that in mind and make sure that you're doing all the tasks you can do, but you're not trying to do too much and you become burnt out and you begin not enjoying it. Students need to enjoy your lessons and you need to enjoy teaching the lessons. So you need to make sure that you're thinking about all these things and doing all these things to be the kind of most confident and best teacher you can be. Oh, I just saw this photo pop up. Okay, so this was when I was leaving Peru. This was like my leaving do. So there are all the different teachers from the Language Institute and a couple of the students as well. It's like made me really emotional looking at that photo. I'm like, oh. But yes, this is kind of the wrap it up. This is the final slide. But I think the most important thing is when you begin kind of teaching English abroad, it's, all of the questions that people ask before they go are about kind of the lessons, the physical teaching, the students. It's really important to be mindful of all the different things I've kind of touched on today and covered, like time management, finding the ways that you can re-energize and refresh. Because as with kind of any aspect of your life or any job that you end up doing, whether you like love teaching like me and genuinely want to pursue it in the future, or you want to go on to different things, making sure that you are still practicing these kind of healthy work techniques are really important for you to have a beneficial experience and for you to get everything out of it that you can. You'll be able to culturally integrate when you make sure that you have that time management and free time to do different things and different activities. Setting your boundaries to make sure that you're not working all the hours God gives in the day, doing things, finding, am I more introverted? Am I more extroverted? Like, where do I re-energize and get my energy from? Because as I mentioned earlier, trust me, if you're going into these classes really tired and lacking energy and you're not sleeping enough, you're trying to cram in all these activities, it's going to impact the lessons, it's going to impact your relationship with your students and kind of everything that they're getting out of it as well. So your free time is your free time, it's not anyone else's. So do what you need to do with it. Be with your fellow teachers, go and do the things that they're doing, or if you need a bit of time out, like I said, go running, journal, watch Netflix for hours. I spend a ridiculous amount of time on TikTok just scrolling, but I need that like mindlessness sometimes to just mindlessly scroll. But there's lots of different things. I will say that when you are teaching English abroad, you will learn an incredible amount about yourself. No, it sounds so cliche and like, you're going to go and learn so much about yourself, but I genuinely did. I learned kind of, the ways that I can re-energize, the way that I can be a good teacher and kind of how I act in a different environment, a different culture and the pressure you put on yourself. It's really important to be patient with yourself, especially when you go abroad for the first time. You're in a different environment. You don't have your same kind of support network from home. I did a lot of FaceTimes with friends and family to kind of make sure that I was still connected with them, but then also making sure that I was dividing my time connecting with my support network out there. You will have a great kind of community of different teachers. We still have our group chat. I still chat with them regularly. You'll find that going through this experience with different people will bond you in a different way to kind of different friendships I have, because it's such a unique experience. You're in a unique environment for the first time. So yeah, I know it's really cliche and cringe to say like you're gonna learn, you're gonna find yourself, but I definitely learned a lot about myself when I was teaching abroad. Okay, and final thing obviously is making sure that any questions you have about anything, email us. I know before I went and did my qualification, I had so many questions, so I am literally more than happy to chat and answer any questions anyone has about anything. But yeah, that was my final slide. So I hope you've found it useful to hear a bit about the secret sauce, and it not just being about your teaching techniques or kind of things that you cover in the classroom or your understanding of English grammar. Being an amazing Tefl teacher is how you are within yourself and making sure that you're coming with that energy and that positive mindset and the right attitude, and it will directly impact your experience teaching. So it's well worth keeping all this in mind. You have a teaching community, so any times that you're struggling, anything, you'll have people to talk to. You're all going through the same kind of roller coaster journey. So yeah, it's just making sure that we're talking and getting as much out of Tefl as you can. What you put into it, you get out of it, and it's certainly very true. So yeah, thank you to those of you who were kind of watching live. Anyone who's watching on replay, thank you for listening to me for 30 minutes talking as well. And yeah, I hope you found it useful. So yeah, thank you for joining me. I will end the broadcast now, but any questions, you know where we are. And yeah, I hope everyone has an amazing day. Okay, bye.